pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now down to everything for business not on the agenda. Any council member have anything to add this evening?
Mayor, I'd like to add item J, a CDL program for our county employees.
CPS, item J. Okay. Anything else from council? Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We also received the minutes from our August 20th regular meeting and the August 19th college meeting. Everyone had a chance to review those.
I'll make a motion that we approve these minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes, is there a second? Is there a second? Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The next item is approval of the August accounts payable and capital assets. Mr. Gilmer.
Mr. Blankenship, if there's any additions to this month's accounts payable? Mayor, I just talked to Kevin briefly earlier. There's a $33,000 bill from AEP, which includes labor and material for street lighting. We need to make sure that gets billed first to downtown revitalization and then secondary to VDOT if possible. We also have the final payment for the theater roof, which is $5,800. We need to make sure that that gets taken out of CPROC funds.
That's right.
And then lastly, I'd like to omit the payment to Lane Group for $23,140. We actually met with Lane Group and there's some overlap or redundancy in some of that scope of work. And he's supposed to revise us on an updated invoice here shortly. And I'll get Kevin, if you don't care, to follow up with Matthew Lane on that.
So we're pulling that one out of the
Yes.
accounts. Okay.
That said, with those additions and omissions, Mayor, I'll move to approve the accounts payable for August.
Sure. Second? Second. We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, moving into our new business. Our business for tonight. Item A, conditional use permit review. Mr. Chairman of the Planning Commission here.
I'm here, Mayor.
Mr. Rainey, do we have, I see Wayne, is anybody else here with you, Wayne?
No.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, could you advise council of this conditional use permit when you all met?
Your Honor, I'm sorry.
It's hard to break.
You should be. On the 14th of January 2013, the Planning Commission met when the application was presented. And actually, I made the motion to approve the conditional use permit. And the only thing in the minutes that I can see, or the permit itself states that the vehicles will be parked on, initially I think we said the front of the building, and then after some discussion, we said that the sides of the building would be accessible as well. And that's where the Planning Commission voted to approve that application as presented.
Wayne, I understand in reading the minutes, you were here that night for the meeting. Do you agree with what
was understood from the planning commission.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, we talked about it that night, and the people that were here that wanted some kind of addendum to that stated that I should not park anything behind the second building, which was later torn down. From day one, I have parked vehicles from behind the main building back to where the second building was. I've done that since day one. I haven't changed anything except when I had to move some vehicles down on the lower end toward Long John's so that I would have room to park the vehicles that were works in progress. And that is what I've remained to do. I've tried to be a good neighbor and stick to exactly what I told the council. I told them that night that I would have to park cars outside, that I would not have a car lot out there, but that I might once in a while park a car along the front with a for sale sign on it for one of my customers or neighbors, and I have tried to stick to that. And I've tried to be a good neighbor to everyone there. Most of my neighbors are my customers. And I feel like that I have done my very best to comply with all that was asked of me.
So was that building there at the time, Donnie, that we approved this?
The building that was there behind the first building has been torn down, and a new building has been built, and actually Mr. Barrett explained to me that he did spend a considerable amount of money to get a new building erected there. So no, when we made the application and suggested approval, the building that was there initially is no longer there, but a new building's been replaced.
At that time, you thought, are you saying it's your understanding you couldn't park vehicles behind the second building, behind the building?
Yes, I told him that night that while I had to park vehicles around the main building where I worked, that I did not have any plans to park anything behind that second building, and that seemed to be kosher with everyone at the time. But I tried to make that plain, that, that I would have to park vehicles outside, but most of the work would be done inside.
Right.
Sometimes we do have to work outside. I currently employ 4 people. I try to keep 5. I have customers from all over this side of the Mississippi practically, from Illinois to Louisiana to Florida, and a lot of customers here in town, and I can't help but have a lot of vehicles parked out there. I do try to keep it clean and mowed and neat, and I try not to do any polluting or anything like that. And like I said, I've tried my best to comply with the rules as I understood it.
I'll make a comment, but I'm sure council may have some thoughts. For me, I'm probably going to tell you I didn't see the second building, okay? So when I drive by, I see those vehicles. For the most part, it's been to the front and on the sides. And here of late, it seems like I guess your customer numbers have increased, and you now need to move vehicles behind the main business building. I was under the impression that you'd be on the front and sides. So I missed the second building is what I'm trying to tell you. And when you talked about it, got torn down.
Yeah, Mark Mitchell came last year and checked it out. I think that was in 2019, and talked to him about it and everything. And Ron did offer to build a fence or something like that, but he has not pursued that any further as far as I know.
Okay.
But it's his property. I rent, and I can't spend my money
On his
improving other people's property.
Sure.
I tried to do the best I could. And I did say that night that I have parked vehicles behind that main building since day one. Maybe just 1 or 2 at a time, but we've been extremely busy this summer. And I do currently have a truck back there from Stinson's that I'm trying to get a transmission rebuilt for and a couple things like that. But I don't make it a habit of keeping a lot of stuff back there either. I try, like I said, I try to keep it neat and clean.
Wayne, what was the result of the site visit with Mr. Mitchell? Did he make any suggestions, or was there a formal
He
complaint?
looked around everything, he went and talked to the Kaisers, and I don't know if somebody else had complained or what, but he came back and he said, he had read over everything that he could find, and he said, so you feel like you're in compliance? And I said, yes, I do, I'm trying to be in compliance.
Right.
And he said, if there's anything else, I'll get back with you, and I never heard any more from him.
Thank you.
Wayne, thanks for coming, and I'm glad you've got an abundance of business. That's great. And Keith, this is all I've got to go off of, was the minutes and the conditional use permit. And in the conditional use permit, it says that it's restricted to the front and sides of the building. And that's all, just the front and the sides. And then moving past the conditional use permit, that evening you spoke, the minutes that were taken says, these were your words, that most of the vehicles would be inside and then only a few vehicles would be parked along the front. Then it goes on to say, you promised that the property would be kept uncluttered and neat. And then further on, it just, whenever they approved the motion for the conditional use permit, states again that the restrictions are to the two buildings closest to Main Street and restricted to the front and sides of the buildings. And although there hadn't been a formal complaint made, the only thing that I have heard is that they would like them removed from the rear of the building. And again, this is all I've got to base off of, and if you could shine some more input on that, that's what I need to hear.
Well, I am sure that I told the council that I would not park anything behind that second building. But I understood that I could use everything up to that second building.
Okay. And I guess at that time, the second building would have been, behind the second building would have been Gene and Phyllis's yard, essentially.
Yeah, within about 40, 50 feet.
Okay.
Something like that. Their property's all the way up there at that light pole according to Ron Barrett. I don't know.
Okay.
According to him, the property that I rent goes up to that light pole, which is, way on up the hill past, where the second building would have had a space in front of it to drive and park
Okay.
vehicles. I have to have room to park vehicles that are not drivable. You know what I'm saying? That I can get in and out the door with some kind of access
Absolutely.
there. And if I spend all day moving vehicles, I don't get a lot of work done.
Thank
Do you
you.
have a lot of untagged vehicles there or wrecked or whatever?
There are a few vehicles down there on the lower end. One or two belongs to me, and one or two, maybe three, belongs to customers that they brought there and couldn't get parts for, or couldn't find an engine for. The one Explorer down there belongs to me. I've been getting a motor and transmission for, and I fixed a wrecked Ranger that was down there for Lavelle Hartsock. And we're going to take the motor and transmission out of it and put in the Explorer. But that stuff of mine is supposed to be put on the back burner when I have customer work to do. Yeah, some of them do sit there, for a while. I'm not physically capable of doing everything the day it comes in, so. And sometimes just can't get something to work with, that's the bottom line.
Well, Wayne, as we sit here receiving the permit itself that was issued, it says that there's two buildings. Nowhere does it say that you can park behind those buildings. It says front and sides. That's what the permit that's issued said. And that's why we're having this discussion tonight. So it appears unless the council, the planning commission, you may need to come back, I guess, Donnie, they can come back with Kevin Tiller. Can he come back and do additional requests on that property?
He filed the second conditional use permit to expand that.
That's all but until, Mr. Chairman, also.
The only thing is, from the time that the planning commission made the recommendation to approve it, the building's been demolished, so it's a totally new
It's new.
look. It's a new look, but it's not, if that makes sense. I understand what he's saying, but, that may be something that you may have to do at a second permit, I don't know. But what we agreed on and voted on is not what's there now.
So was there a third building when the first conditional use permit was?
No, there was two buildings. One was behind the other, and he had it just taken down, I think, demolished. And put is that a frame building? Or
No, there's not been another building built. All of what's there now was originally there, but there was another building behind that, right below Gene's property there, that spread pretty much the whole length of his property. And there was a big white plastic tank on the end of it toward the church. And they took the tank and destroyed that building and dozed all that over and sowed grass, and the wind blew all the grass away, and now got a bunch of thistles.
So that property, you don't have anything to do with that?
No,
So the conditional, the condition, the structure that's currently there, it's one structure, correct?
correct.
Because this, just like I said, this is new to me, all I can read is the minutes and the motions that were made.
How many vehicles are parked behind the building? How many vehicles are parked behind the building that you currently are servicing?
3, I think. There's the Stinson truck, there's a white Focus, and there's a gold Chrysler. And then sort of back up on the hill a little bit, I have a Jeep and a something else. But that's on the side. That's not behind the building, but it might be, I mean, it's not even with the back of the building, but it's not behind the building either.
Wayne, could you move those 3 vehicles down from where they are to the side of the building?
I can't move the box truck. I don't have any way very good at all,
Do you have them bring their vehicles in, maybe, when you know that you're gonna work on them, or do they bring them and stay there or whatever?
I just try to schedule work, but sometimes they just want to bring them on and leave them until they're done. And I can't tell them not to bring them. That wouldn't be very good business.
Doyle, Scott, any other council member in regard to this matter?
Mr. Mayor, if I could address the council one more. I don't think it would benefit to apply for an additional conditional use permit, because I understand the impression from Ron that was an additional building.
Okay.
But if it's not, then it's not going to change anything on the application or the structure of it.
I got you. Thank you.
I guess my question is, since what we're looking at from the minutes and from the conditional use is that it was the sides and the front, and there are 5 vehicles in the back. And-
Approximately, yes, ma'am.
And if those vehicles can't be moved to adhere to the conditional use permit.
Can you explain again why the panel, the truck can't be moved? Is it like immovable or something?
No, I could move it. I just need it where I can work on it. I can't work on it inside. The transmission is out of it, and I've had to send off to have it repaired.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to moving vehicles and parts and things, you lose a lot of stuff, and,
Do you have an anticipated date that transmission will be done?
probably a couple more weeks
Okay.
would be my guess.
Well, again, Wayne, we're in a situation, the planning commission made a recommendation after having your involvement, your statements that you made that night. Planning commission recommended to council, we approved their recommendations. The simple solution to avoid any further issue with the permit is to move those 3 to 5 vehicles to the side in front of the building. That's the simplest fix. And you won't have an issue with the permit.
Okay.
I mean, am I right, Mr. Taylor? Does that solve the problem?
Could we give Mr. Music some time with the box truck?
Absolutely. He said, this is the 14th of September. How about between now and the next council meeting? That gives you 30 days.
Is that enough time?
Is that enough time to move those vehicles?
If the transmission gets done, yes.
You good?
Yes, sir.
Deanna? Elijah?
Yes, sir.
Brad?
If you don't feel comfortable that's enough time, just request if that's not enough time. Or if
Well,
there-
I think it will be, but
Okay,
I,
and if it's not, can you reach out to Mr. Blankenship and communicate that so he can communicate that with us also?
I just received the funds to get the transmission done on Friday
Okay.
afternoon.
Well, just,
So-
if it's gonna be past, that date, just reach out to Kevin so he can let us know.
That'll be October 12th, Wayne.
I'm good, man.
Kevin, do we need to make a motion to have that in the minutes regarding that, or?
You can just have the discussion.
Have the discussion.
No,
Okay.
no motion.
Very good.
Wayne, I mean, is that reasonable? I'd like to hear from you on that as well.
I feel that it's put me in a hard position if I can't use a level spot of land to park a down vehicle. And I've been using that place since day one. This is not something that I started in the last year or two. Vehicles have always been there. Nothing was said until the other building was torn down. I always understood that I was not to park anything behind the second building. That was my understanding. I don't know how it got written up, but that was my understanding, and I feel like I've abided by what I understood it. But if y'all feel like I can't park anything behind that building, I'll have to make other arrangements. Whether that be move out of town or whatever I have to do, I'll do it.
I don't understand, you say there's only one building, but yet you keep referring to the second building.
The second building was torn down, man.
Yeah.
When it was there, it obstructed their view of whatever might be behind the first building. Is that, I don't know any other way to explain it. You got Main Street, you got the primary building, then you got the second building, then you got the Kaiser home.
But you said you didn't even have, you weren't having anything to do with your business with the second building.
That's
So
correct.
you wouldn't be parking back there anyway.
That's correct. The only cars that I'm parking are down in the level. 125 feet from any property line, except the street that goes up and down. There's nothing back, I've not went on back any further than I was on day one.
Anything else, Lord? Anything else? Wayne, thanks for coming tonight. We appreciate you visiting with us and trying to resolve this matter. And we hope we can. Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne.
I see several people. Is there anybody in the crowd who, in the group tonight, that wishes to address the council that's not on the agenda? You already signed up? We're glad to have with us tonight Ms. Pat Gray. Pat, good to see you. This is an annual visit, I believe, regarding the U.S. Constitution Week. So at this time, I'll turn it over to you.
say this is my annual visit, and I appreciate very much your time. I'm here on behalf of the Blythe Adams Russell chapter, the local Russell County chapter of the United Daughters of Revolutionary War veterans. This marks the 233rd anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution and its acceptance. And if you would like, I would appreciate you reading it. If you have a copy, I have copies.
Well, I have it here. Whereas September 9, 2020 marks the 233rd anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States designating September 17th through September 23rd as Constitution Week. Now therefore, at the request of the Tabitha Adams Russell chapter of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution, I, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the town of Lebanon, do hereby claim September 17th through September 23rd as Constitution Week, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guarding of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. There you go.
Thank you. And if you can spare the time, we would like to have a picture, please. We get points for pictures, and we get points for it being in the local newspaper.
Well, we gotta make
too.
sure, Pat, that you get those points.
That's right, we need points.
If Brad and Elijah stay down there, I'll come down there and meet you.
Okay.
And if the rest of the council could line up behind us. Brad's on him now.
Don't make sure they smile at you.
Brad's last took a picture. We just let one. Let's do this. You move the chair over.
I'm asking for a picture.
I'm asking. Make sure that turned the right way up.
That would look better.
Ready to go, everybody?
You got everybody?
Yeah.
She tells us.
So that's your welcome man. 1, 2, 3. All right.
Thanks, Pat. Thank you, Pat.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. And the work you do. Thank you.
That's why I didn't my button up there, but thank you. It's been a little bit,
Okay, next on the agenda is Kelly McBride. Ms. Kelly?
Didn't have an agenda, I wasn't sure what name. Good day, I am Kelly McBride with the Russell County Public Library, and I am here today to throw out an idea for you called story wall. They are becoming more and more common across the world, certainly North America. The idea is that you dismember a couple copies of a children's book and you post it along the path on laminated or in some fashion weather protected, so that the children and the families can walk walk along the path, and there's a page of the storybook, and walk a little farther, and there's the next page. And I was hoping to do this as an outreach, particularly since people are a little hesitant to come in the library with groups now, family groups or any other groups. So I thought that would be a way to get folks outside. Education and particularly childhood literacy is one of our supreme goals. It's the thing, the story time is what the library is associated with, you know. We don't have kids coming to story time. We're doing story time on Zoom, you know, on Facebook Live, but that's what we're associated with. So we thought this would be a way to reach out and put it out for you folks. What I would be proposing would be to allow us to put a couple of these stations, however many it takes to do the book, in a park setting. Could be down at Easterly, could be here. I defer to you if you will let me do it. If you want approval on how it is set up from a semi-permanent, transitory, I mean, it can be done as simply as some laminated cardstock on one of those yard signs. It can be a mounted thing with a plexiglass cover that protects it from the weather. And you can Google it and see. Go to Pinterest.
Can you do this around our walking trail here at the
Could.
park?
It's up to you guys.
Can do one here and at Easterly Park, and maybe even one at the
Oh, will?
Old Mill Park.
It's possible. Just got to get books and somebody to help make the things. I'm looking at the possibility of either, if we got any Eagle Scouts, obviously it'd be a nice Eagle project, or any other volunteer group that wants to help, or maybe talking to the Career Technology Center, or if nothing else, the County Work Program. If I can scrounge stuff, I'm sure make one template, they could make half a dozen more.
With the, two questions. Cost of it would be through volunteer or okay, and donations. And then the second question is, would it be one permanent story, or do you look at changing stories out, that may be by the season?
I would think that we would want to try to change it. And that's why I thought about, okay, how could we do it? Well, we could do it as simple as laminated and taped to a yard sign. We could have the yard sign printed generically with a story walk from Russell County Public Library or something, and then the laminated piece just taped on it. But we could also do, if you envision something like this but more erect, a piece of plexiglass that has a curved edge and then flat, you could essentially, the rain would go off this side, the rain would come down this way, you could bolt it down, and, whenever you were ready to change it, if you got too many bugs under it or whatever, just unscrew it, put a new one under.
So what you're doing is just asking us for permission to do that.
To pursue that and look for volunteers. I mean, we certainly have enough construction firms that if somebody's willing to donate some random spare 2x and leftover plywood sheets, because, it depends on the story. And if you're willing to let me do it, I don't think I can get all of those done this year. I'll be doing good to get one of them done. But, if you're okay with the idea, I'll work at getting volunteers or staff or somebody to do it and a prototype. The question is, do you have a strong feeling on where it goes first and what it looks like?
You could do it like one park and then move it if it was like yard signs, right?
Yeah, I mean, actually, you could. I mean, particularly if we go simple with the yard sign method. We get a dozen yard signs, and we could actually set it up so that you go this way and the rest of the story is on the back, so you turn around and come back. So you wouldn't have to have as many signs. And that would actually be pretty quick, because you wouldn't have to construct anything. It would just be a matter of, frankly, after the election season, there'll probably be a lot of little yard signs for free, but We could recycle. But something like that we could do quickly and easily.
So, Leanne, you want to give her, are we saying, are you making a motion to let her use the 3 parks to do this? Is that what you're thinking?
I will. I have permission
Is
and
there a second?
With,
I'll second that.
with this part being first,
well, or either.
I mean, which part do you think has the most traffic? That's what I was
This
thinking.
is where they're having tournaments and that kind of thing right now
I mean, where it's gonna see.
at the
And God willing, eventually the kids from school at least.
Yeah.
Right, that's what to promote childhood literacy, which is where, you know, what the focus is, I think, starting over here, and then, you know, I mean, Deanna had a great idea, taking this story and then maybe moving it to another park, and then putting a new story here.
probably get more traffic, more children at the Easterly and the town park.
Yeah, that would be my thought.
That'll be the first 2.
And
Is
honestly,
there a
I
second
thought
to
about
that?
the
We got a
middle part.
second. Okay.
The middle part was like really close to traffic,
Yeah.
you know. Well, that is delightful. Homemaker was like, yeah, go. And they told me I could put it behind the library on their little red boat trail right by the creek, so.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
We're honored to have with us some folks that experienced some very tough duty in our town. Back in June, actually a tragic event, fatal event. And what we'd like to do is thank those folks who put themselves as first responders in that situation and who helped families, and we've also carried that memory, I'm sure, with them. So we'd like to recognize those folks here tonight with our certificate of heroic actions. And what I'd like to do is read this certificate, and I'll come back down front and hand these out to the individuals that are here tonight. A certificate of heroic actions. Whereas on behalf of the Lebanon Town Council and the Lebanon Volunteer Fire Department, we would like to commend, and I'll read each name as we hand them out. Whereas for the heroic efforts during the motor vehicle accident that occurred on June 22nd, 2020 on Route 71. Now therefore be it resolved on this day, September the 14th, 2020, the Lebanon Town Council and the Lebanon Volunteer Fire Department that Danny Cheney, for example, be hereby commended for his valiant actions and his physical and moral courage. So I'm going to come down and call your names.
Oh, you may hand them to you.
Our chief assistant to come forward. Danny Ray Cheney. Thank you so much. We appreciate your efforts. I'm sorry we're in the times we're in. I'd love to shake your hand. But I'll do that. Clayton Paul Cheney. Paul? Yeah. I knew you was Clayton.
Mayor, let Regina get a picture right there.
Let Aunt Regina get a,
Oh.
Uncle Danny,
Danny,
you want to
Come
come up?
up here. I'll stay up here with you. Get, just wait till Danny gets here. Thank you. R.J. Blackwell. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lance Blackwell. Lance, thank you, buddy. Clinton Collins. I said Patrick. Matthew Baker. Appreciate you very much.
Appreciate it, Matt.
Heather, did you get a group picture of them, maybe somehow, before they all leave? David and Kayla Manners. Thank you all for your service. Thank you.
Mayor, maybe the chief has something he wants.
I was going to say, give me a minute there. Let's see, I'm trying to think. How can we do it? Huh?
I think it would be better to be outside, don't you?
Before we, if everybody stay with us, I'd like to call on our fire chief and assistant for any comments regarding that evening and their service to our community.
You know, that was a very tough evening. And I know if you are like me, it's still, there's not a day goes by that you don't think about it. And I know every time I go down 71, I still see the markings on the road and things, and it brings back a lot of memories. But, you know, we thank you all. That day, as bad as it was, it could have been a whole lot worse. And you all stepped in. You know, it takes a lot for somebody to step up and do it, and we appreciate that.
I think I've spoken about everybody involved in here, and you don't see, on every accident we go on a ton of them, people stop, but they just don't anymore. They don't care. You all took time out of your day to help them. There's still people living from that accident that thanks you. They may not talk to you every day, but I guarantee they think about you every day. And thank you all.
Thank you. Let's, if the group could go outside with the chief and the assistant chief, you know, we should come and get a picture. Let's do that. That's all. Let's go out to the side of the building. Flag, yeah.
Look at that, it's so beautiful.
Chloe has one.
Oh man, I was gonna be in there.
First responders, let's go.
Pat, how many years you been coming up here?
Several.
I know as long as I've been coming here, you've been coming up here.
Well, yes, I've been doing this for, I don't know how many years. But, you know, I like to come here. I always get treated like a queen or something, so I'm very happy to come here. And the Board of Supervisors does the same, so I don't mind doing it at all. And we, as I said, we do get points for it, so.
How many members do you all have?
Well, members who attend the meetings, we've probably got in the neighborhood of around 30. But we have members who have roots here or the appropriate ancestor here, did have, and they live elsewhere. And so they are members and pay their dues. And so all told, we've probably got about 50 members.
What?
counting those that don't live here.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. But we started out, I don't know, about 20 or something like that. I guess about 15 years ago, probably. Something like that, or more. Have you seen Linda Taylor lately? I'm sure you have.
Today,
How is she?
she's doing well.
Well, I'm glad I have missed her since she moved away.
I'm sure you do, yeah. No, I never for a long time.
Abington. Moved to Abington.
Yeah. Yeah, she's doing good. She's got that little dog.
Oh, does she?
Yeah, she's got her little dog, little schnauzer.
Oh,
She brings it to work with her.
oh, gosh.
All around.
Is she still practicing?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's it.
David's still down there too? No, Linda couldn't manage without a little dog.
Yeah, she likes those dogs. You'll have to stop by and see her sometime.
Well, she lives in that first yellow house, doesn't she? That's what I thought. Well, I know she's always busy, and but I have been meaning to, but you know how that goes.
She'd be glad to have you.
I know.
Yeah, she'd be glad to have you.
I think in my old age I have developed allergies or something. That can be bad.
Diane has some. David has some.
Right here's some.
That's that hot test.
It is, yeah. And it's great. It's what I use after I pump gas.
You already know this.
Something following you big time, isn't it?
Kevin, this is.
I don't know, I just
Cover
had
your
this
side.
spells.
Peter tries to trick me.
When we agreed to do the solid agreement after this agreement, there's a note in that agreement that says that a portion of the gas proposal is also included in the renovation, which is the construction documents. Dated September 9th, that work is valued at $17,175. So that's supposed to be excuse me, $7,100, $7,175. Yeah, these brothers, this was the contract amount that was supposed to be amended, or he was checking on it for us, we never heard anything back. Okay.
Oh, my God.
He's having smoke. You
On the agenda. They quit smoking.
supposed to
review.
I say we get to it, we pull them if we need to, it's good to read.
Quit when we started there.
Okay, you don't, I can lay them right here if you need.
That's fine, that'd be good.
I'll do that.
Thank you.
How you doing, Chuck? Good, you all right? How's it going? Did well. Did, Archie. Slowed down. I mean, then you got no. Started out good. How long y'all gonna take
Let's
to
see.
Well, we're just doing driving party for September. It's probably gonna get too cold. We don't have to no, it doesn't get real warm.
Yeah.
72, 73, but
Seems like a lot of things go on here together.
well, it's real clean. It's, you know, it's like, close to 175 people. It makes you feel,
Does the fragrances bother you? I had even one that, so I didn't know what it was. Is that irritating you?
Yeah, it's true.
No, it's just, I don't have this. We're all If it's fragrance, I've probably got no problem.
Yeah, I got one too.
Well, usually people know.
Like mileage or something. Bobby Keys.
Stop being,
At this time, we'll come back to order. We'll have item E, bid opening. Bid opening for restroom in the community center. Diane, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Write these down. Stiffy Construction. Stiffy Construction.
I get one, he takes it every time.
$37,850.
37 one.
$37,850. That seals pretty good. This one's from Ken's Construction. $63,715.
715.
$63,715. These bids will require a review to make sure we're comparing apples to apples. So, I'll give these back to you, Kevin.
Check that straight, cheap man. 65 or 66.
Okay. Item F is a resolution regarding the Community Development Block Grant Program in our downtown revitalization project. This is is this where we're drawing down funds, Kevin? This resolution for the Community Development Block Grant?
Shane can speak of it and draw.
Somebody explain that resolution?
This is a resolution that you all are using those funds for block grant funds.
Yeah.
So those monies were set aside for the town to use for block grant funds.
Okay.
This is just our remaining balance for this fiscal year that we have remaining on the $1 million block grant from DHCD.
Correct.
Right.
And it's just showing that the town realizes what they have and what they're still spending for downtown revitalization.
Need a motion, it's in your agenda packet, need a motion to approve that resolution.
So moved, Mayor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, same. Diane, do I have you have one for me to sign, or do I do it? I'll get it later. That'll be fine.
You've already signed it.
Okay, thank you. Item G is the CARES Fund Committee recommendations regarding the CARES funds relief to municipalities that were distributed to the towns of Lebanon, Homeacre, and Cleveland from the Russell County CARES Fund Act funds. So, do I have committee has met, I think, a couple of times. I'll turn this over to the chair of the committee, Mr. Gilmer.
Yes, Mayor. The CARES Funds Committee met at 5 o'clock this afternoon and went over the following items that I'll make in form of a motion for approval to utilize our CARES Act funds for these expenditures. The first is the document that we went over, the department expenditure summaries for all town departments. The sum come out to $171,802.57. I'll put that in the form. Well, I guess if it's okay, I'll make.
Come on, one.
Okay. Do we consider this a committee recommendation since it's in the form of a motion?
Yeah, the committee's recommending the
Okay.
motion.
All right. The next item, Mayor, was the small business grants. We had 21 applicants. The first 17 that were reviewed on Wednesday, those applicants are contingent. They get in good standing. All applicants get in good standing with the town. I think there was a couple applicants that still had some outstanding business licensure and meals and lodging tax. So we would like the recommendation for the council to approve that. I'll put that in the form of the motion along with the last four, Extol, Woodsies, Fields Restaurants, and Tokyo. Those applicants were just received since Wednesday upon committee review, and as long as they're in good standing with the town, I would like that to, the committee recommends putting that in with the Small Business Relief Grant Fund for a total of $105,000.
Okay.
The next item, Mayor, was in on March 27th, the Town Council passed a Small Business Relief and Recovery Fund that included items, one of which was the water, sewer, garbage, and base rates adjustment. The committee recommends recovering those funds. That was a sum of $22,975. But I'll put that in the form of a motion to move for those expenditures of the CARES Act fund.
Kevin, can we do all three in one motion, or they have to be separate?
I think you probably can do them all in one motion unless there's an objection. The council would have to tackle that way.
So we have a department recommendation, department CARES funds, we have small business grant funds, and what was that last?
Recovery of water, sewer, and garbage rates.
Is there, Mr. Blige, is there a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Thank you very much. Did we receive the theater bids?
Exactly.
We've got the drawing, the specs.
You got the specs? The documents that we can talk about that reflected our changes from a previous meeting, is that correct?
Yeah, he's dropped these off for us for you guys to take a look at.
I don't know if we can take action on those if we haven't looked at them yet.
These are just the amended specs from what, they presented last meeting, and we made some minor changes and changed some of the scope of work. So upon Kevin's approval, I'd like to go ahead and, as long as those amendments were made to the documents, I'd like to move move forward with Kevin preparing a bid document and bid those specs for the rest of the year, Mayor.
When do we want those back here? October?
Do you have written down that timeline that we set forth or that we had proposed, Kevin?
Okay.
I don't have the timeline set down, written down or anything like that.
Can you send that out? We discussed it, and we think, Tony, if you remember, I think we were gonna try to have those back. We'd set maybe
Pre-bid conference.
yeah, we wanted to go ahead and move and put that immediately in the Bristol paper. We plan on putting it 2 weeks, or at least 2 times, at least once per week in the Bristol paper. We were planning on running it 2 weeks in the Lebanon News, and we were planning on conducting a pre-bid conference before the final bids were due. But that timeline was all going to be met and bid documents due on the Monday at 4 p.m. of our council
On October 12th.
on October
Is
12th.
that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Opposed, same sign.
Kevin, and I'll get with you to review those documents, and make sure those updates are made.
Okay.
We'll get together.
Okay.
I believe, is that in our documents, the prevention plan?
Yes.
Yes, it's in
Yeah,
our.
this is
Your
a,
packet.
I understand this, Kevin, to be a statewide requirement for localities.
Yeah, what this is a document that was presented or gave to us, basically a template that we can use, and this is from Versa. So basically what we did is we more or less just in particular areas, we just included the town of Lebanon, things of that nature. And then of course, if everybody has the document in front of you, it's in the packet. The packet, let's see.
It's in lots of different pages.
All right, go.
Pages and information.
No, it's under information,
It is information.
behind all of the resolutions.
Yeah.
Just about two seconds.
Or it's after the,
Training facilities.
Yeah. but this is the document that we're referring to. So basically, this was given to me from a gentleman that works for Versa. His name is Eddie Shelton. And what we did, basically, we went through the entire organizational policy. So according to the standard, as of July 27th, marked the date when the timeline for the time started, the clock started. You had 30 days to actually, from that point, to talk to your employees on a new standard of doing things. If you remember, we discussed this about coming in, taking temperature, going through the questions, some different practices, as far as through the work. If you're riding in a vehicle, if there's more than one of you have to wear a mask and cleaning and so forth. There's got to be practice, during the lunchtime. So all those different things was actually supposed to be addressed during that time for the training piece. Then we have 60 days to actually implement, you guys to actually vote on and implement and approve this as the town's policy. So they actually provided us a template, so we wouldn't have to basically try to write our own policy and so forth. So basically in the front it gives you all the definitions throughout so that you can understand basically the policy. Page 5, it talks about the employer, and I'll go through fairly quick, I won't try to take a long time, but it gives you the employer requirements. Page 6 gives you the return to work policy, how you're supposed to handle that. 7, it gives you actually categories of the exposure that your employees may do. They put them in a specific category. They have 4 categories. The first one is lower, second one is medium, the third is high, and the fourth is extremely high. When you go through here, page 8, it gives you a list over to the right that gives you the department on who is in this category. So on page 8, when you look to the right, to the left rather, under exposure, this is under the medium exposure risk. So who is actually in that category? When you go to the right of the page, you see the department / the work class and your groups. And so you have your administrative, You have your legislative, the public works, street, sanitation, shop, maintenance, water and sewer maintenance, parks, recs, water plant, wastewater plant, and so forth. So they pretty much guided me to where these are the departments that should be in this particular category. So I went with their recommendation and typed basically this into, for our use, our policy. You go to the next page, which is page 9, and then you see where it says high exposure risk. This is our police department and our fire department. And again, this was recommendations from them that this is where they felt that each department should be either in the medium or the high. We don't have anybody in the very high. So you can go through this document whenever and just sort of read through it to learn a little bit more about it. Page 12, it talks about the training. So we have to make sure in our training that we cover these items. And then, of course, responsible party and so forth. So this is basically, you know, just a real quick idea of what we're talking about as far as the policy.
Don't we need to adopt this tonight?
Yes, and yes.
They say, Brad, one your world.
I would like to make a motion to approve these guidelines established through Versa that follow the Virginia OSHA guidelines.
For a second,
Second.
further discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Opposed, say no. Brad, you're item J,
All right?
CDL program.
I had Ryan prepare a sheet for everybody, print off a sheet. At the top of that sheet says Southwest Virginia Workforce Development Board. They're offering a program right now where you can send employees to have their CDL training, which would have them their Class A CDLs. And Southwest Virginia Workforce Development Board will pay for that class for those employees as long as we keep them on the payroll. The
They're paying
class,
their own salary or on the 12-5.
they will pay for the class, and then we pay just like they're working, paying 8 hours a day. The class is 4 weeks long, and I've spoken with Billy, and he's asked everybody in his department, and he's only had 2 interested. Billy feels comfortable that with the seasons changing, mowing slowing down, that he feels comfortable having 2 employees off for 4 weeks. Currently, we only have 1 Class A CDL driver in town, and Billy has to schedule projects around that driver. And this driver is getting closer to retirement age. So we need to have somebody else trained and ready to fill those shoes. And I feel like this is a great opportunity for those employees to do.
Talk a little bit about that terms of the program. What's that mean?
So that right there is for the 4 weeks, that employee will get paid his shift each day through the town. And through that, they will pay his 12.5 fee at the class.
What does the class
All right,
cost?
and then once he graduates and is awarded his Class A, once he passes the test, one of the requirements here in bullet 7 is that one of the guidelines is to give those 2 employees, or which employees pass, an increase in salary.
To be determined by the
To
council.
be determined, yeah, there's no guidelines on what that would be, but that would be determined upon their completion of the class.
Once they complete this class, is there a time limit that they need to stay with the town?
That's all something we can discuss later. That's no guidelines that the workforce development board has set.
Well, I would be giving them anyway as their salary plus after they completed an increase in their salary.
Yes, which I feel like they would deserve. Anyways. That's a big, this credential is a big plus to the town to have.
Well, I was looking at it as the same as the academy training,
Yep.
Just like now.
going to the academy.
But we don't pay for this. We're doing,
How much is the
well, we're
class
giving
cost?
their salary, but
12,000.
Well,
Yeah, I
how
know,
much
is
but
that
it's
card?
still, it's
How
gonna
much they
make
charge
them-
per class?
It's gonna give
Yeah.
them something, it's gonna give them more
Well,
training, that's gonna make them more.
He gets $12,000.
I called for someone like that, that's what it is.
College is before they.
Yeah.
Well, this is, of course, we sit there, I think about our water and sewer guys, and I believe we pay for their training
We do.
on their, kind of rare we get something that they'll actually pay for, that's something we need. So we don't have to pay for this class through this program for the two individuals. The training is paid for. So
Training's paid for,
We just have to.
we just pay
keep them on the payroll.
their wages for the 4 weeks, and upon completion, and they pass, and awarded that license, we give them a pay raise at their discretion.
Is Billy, and you're saying Billy's feels comfortable?
I
Is
spoke
this,
with Billy.
who's this Hunter and,
Hunter Music and Kevin Stout. And Billy tried to get more, but these were the only two that were interested.
those are younger
younger
boys too?
guys.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Mhm.
That's good. What's council's pleasure regarding this? Are you making a motion?
I would like to make a motion.
$12,500 to get your license.
Well,
What's that goal?
That's unreal figure. Ours was 4200.
You should have gone to work for this bunch.
I would like to make a motion to send these two employees through this program offered by the Workforce Development Board to have their Class A CDLs.
For a second.
But we need to make it where they'll stay with us so long after we get their license.
Well, I think it's gonna be, I think we need, sorry, Anna, go ahead.
we don't do the water treatment plant.
You do police officer.
That's the only group.
I know, but that's a lot different.
Yeah,
And
you'll
the
get their
cost.
license and they're gonna work for Snyder or somebody like that.
The CDL program typically,
Or overnight, I mean, they can go
This
work
is,
tomorrow, they got a CD, go anywhere you want.
Is, there's a possibility of that. I don't believe the class is that much.
Price is well.
I don't believe the class is 12.5. This is saying there's a possibility of 12.5 per project to train a qualified worker. And I believe what that's saying is.
Total down
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
That they could get
Yeah.
per project, it
So-
says.
can we get some more information on the actual training and the project before we move?
That's,
I agree with
I
that.
agree with that.
Just, you want more clarification on what that bullet means?
Just clarification on the CDL program in general.
Well,
What the town, what the actual class is gonna cost. I'm not against getting CDLs for town workers. I'm actually a fan of that. Because having one CDL trained employee, it's tough, especially him being older, possibly retiring within the next so many years. I just think we need more clarification on more about this project, what the cost is gonna be to the town, what the actual CDL program costs, period, before we move. My recommendation.
And that would allow us to maybe iron up some of that discussion with, do we want to do an agreement? Do we want to incentivize with a pay raise? And what does that look like if we're gonna go that route as well?
Sure, that would
I
also
agree
give,
with Elijah, it allows us to.
that would also give these two employees to
But he wants them going
acknowledge
off.
there is gonna be an agreement, and do they still wanna move forward and get their CDLs through the town?
But he wants them going October, that ain't but about 2 weeks.
Yeah, all the town is out is 160 hours paid to employees.
Just what?
4 weeks, 40 hours a week. That's all you're out.
When's the next class after October? Do we know that?
We getting them snow removal, I'm not.
Yeah, this needs to be done before, because we're, mowing's slowing down, but you only do have that time, and then you're right in the winter. And you got leaf picking up, trees picking up, so.
Can you get some more clarification within a week's time?
I'd say a day's time. I can have more information by Thursday of this week.
Council wish to continue this meeting before we make any decision on this request?
Yes.
Can everybody meet next Monday?
No.
What day can you meet, Mr. Bill?
Wednesday, Thursday.
Can everybody meet Thursday evening,
This Thursday.
this Thursday?
This Thursday, sorry, I thought you was talking about next week.
Wednesday would work better.
What day can you, with your work schedule? Any this week, Mr. Gamble? Or is it all next week?
Friday this week, Wednesday, Thursday next week.
Let's do Wednesday. Well, that throws, can we meet, what time can we meet? What's the time we meet?
Wednesday? 5 is fine. Or if earlier needs to be, I'm
On the
flexible this week.
23rd?
A week from this Wednesday would be the 23rd.
I'm good with that, I just need time, preferably evening. for me.
I'll give,
Be fine.
Diane, help us remember.
Is everybody good with 5?
To adjourn, to reconvene. Can everybody do 5 next Wednesday?
Yes, sir.
Brad, you okay at 5?
Yes.
5 is good, okay.
And Brad, that gives us enough time to get some more information and to get them enrolled.
Yes.
When do you have to get them enrolled, right?
I'm not sure.
You can find that
I
out
will
for us.
find out.
Come in next Wednesday.
We're gonna prepare an agreement before that time?
I figured they got one, I figured it'd be a template for that agreement. Is there not?
No, our agreement with our employees.
Same for our employees. That they have to take the class, pass the class, pass the test, and then do we want to add something to that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if we know what we want to, do we have enough information tonight to add, to make a template?
I don't think so.
I think it bears discussion.
I would recommend 4 years of service after you receive your CDLs.
Like, they're better than the police, you know.
Well, I mean, our police department is 3 years.
Yeah, I know. He said longer than that.
Yeah. Police department's 3, so I'm.
Well,
And I know you can get your CDLs today and go to work tomorrow and make them a whole lot more than we think the town government truck.
So what's the pay difference between that?
That's why
and
Walmart
CDL?
drivers make 80,000.
Well,
But you offer VRS.
but you can't, I know that.
Snyder from 60 to 70.
Kaiser wants you to sign him up.
You didn't get that email?
Here's where we're at. When Bobby retires, we have nobody, we have nobody to
Does VRS not matter?
That's what I'm saying, we need to have that discussion. I don't think we put it in template tonight.
Not only that, I think we should send out a mass email to employees for people that actually are interested to step forward. Well, that'll give everybody the opportunity.
And you're saying what, wastewater, treatment, everybody? You want everybody to have the opportunity to take part in this program if they want.
I think it's only fair.
Could they be, I mean,
They're all town.
they're, where they work, would they be able to?
Well, I'm just saying, well, we would have to approve that, but I mean, maybe we do one or two at a time.
Would
But I-
someone from those departments be able to leave 4 weeks?
That's gonna be a stretch for the water and sewer
That's
department.
what,
It's
yeah.
4
that's
weeks, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day.
How many CDL trucks do we have?
Two? Well, Class A's is two?
The issue we have, and Joel can speak because he educated me on it, is a combo unit is where we have issues, correct, Joel? Because we
Right, that's what you have to have a Class A for, 2 pieces.
when we pull the big excavator behind another truck, it's
Roger, Mead, is that right, Kevin?
Robbie.
Robbie Mead is the
He's the
only,
one.
he's the only Class A driver we have.
But it ain't never affected them yet.
is our machine,
Has it hurt?
is our machine operator, is Mr. Francisco not interested? It seems like that would be a good fit as well. If he's the one that runs the excavator, then so that's just something we need to hash out, I guess, or conversation we had along with this other conversation.
Well,
They've already got Class B license on it.
Several have Class B.
okay. Am I to understand that Billy's already talked to our public works employees, and these are the only 2 who've shown interest?
Yes.
So he's already talked to those guys.
And they're the only ones that's gonna be driving
There was,
the equipment.
So,
Were they aware of, I could check, but we need to make sure, was they aware that they may have a pay raise?
At his expense.
Or not only just a pay raise, but also a contingency on staying here under contract.
Right.
Yeah.
See,
So-
now if we say, well, you have to stay here a couple of years after, Hunter might say, wait a minute,
Not legally, or Roger, that was part of the deal. He gets his CDL.
where's it at?
Look, if I look back on it,
We have to go to the minutes and find it.
not legal, was it? You remember them?
I will, if we want to reconvene on this item next Wednesday, I will, I'll be in touch with you and Kevin. I'll prepare a document, and I'll have Rachel Patton from the Workforce Development Board come and speak to whoever.
sounds great.
Sounds good.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I believe we've still got some significant business ahead of us this evening. I see 3 names on this list. I'm gonna go ahead and move item number 12 up at this time. Alice, you have 3 minutes.
3 minutes,
And I got a bunch of young guns now that have told me they can time me.
I've done that with Hannah. I have a concern about the fitness center here. I had talked with Tony and Deanna, and I just want to know something, when you all were discussing it, and, we're needing to move from where we are into September, because the county's closing that one down, and then of course we're gonna move the equipment out here. So I didn't know exactly what your timeline was on the fitness center.
Well, Alice, I think there's still some items, construction items that we haven't completed. I was also informed today by the county that until September 30 has come and gone, they're not gonna release any of that equipment.
That's what I figured you
So,
said last day.
I'd say it's always been our goal, hopefully be going in October. That's what we're shooting for. But we've got hurdles put in front of us, unforeseen, that we're gonna have to cross over before we can actually open it up and operate it. But I think this council, they're with you. If you ask them, I think if you ask us, we'd like to be open right now.
Yeah.
We are to a point, but that's with the swimming. Shane has some thoughts on options he's going to discuss with us later this evening.
Okay.
But to give you an definite answer, I think October is something you can keep in as a goal.
Because I knew they wouldn't move that because they'll still be having classes out there.
That's right.
September 30th.
That's right,
I knew they wouldn't turn it loose until then.
that's right.
Okay, thank you.
What kind of classes are you interested in, ma'am?
Yoga. We do chair yoga.
Okay.
And then some of the others do other Tabata and some of the other classes. The main thing is the chair yoga. We're doing it now at 11 Physical Therapy. It's downstairs there.
Okay.
Well, I noticed, of course, with COVID, you can't walk anymore inside the building. Do you think folks will take advantage if the weather allows to walk, to use the track as far as their walking site?
Yeah. I've been walking on it every night.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alice.
You're welcome.
Kelly Gilman. 3 minutes, Mr. Gilman.
Would it help if I call you Your Honor?
You get bored.
Just move up there.
No, I'll cut, I just got a few comments on our monument. And I'll cut through this and I'll do it right quick. The states that seceded from the Union passed ordinances of secession, which for the most part were documents stating little more than we hereby secede from the United States of America. South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, and Mississippi also issued documents explaining their position. South Carolina's is a 2,200-word document primarily decrying the northern states' non-enforcement of and their passage of laws nullifying the fugitive slave clause in the United States Constitution, which basically said if a slave escaped into another state, that state was to return the slave to its owner. They go on to add, quote, a geographical line has been drawn across the Union, and all the states north of that line have united in the election of a man to the high office of President of the United States whose opinions and purposes are hostile to slavery, end quote. That man was Abraham Lincoln. Georgia begins her 3,300-word document with, quote, the people of Georgia, having dissolved their political connection with the government of the United States of America, present to their Confederates and the world the causes which have led to the separation. For the last 10 years, we have had numerous and serious causes of complaint against our non-slaveholding Confederate states with reference to the subject of African slavery, end quote. Texas's 1,600-word document declares that when she joined the United States, quote, she was received as a Commonwealth holding, maintaining, and protecting the institution known as Negro slavery, the servitude of the Africans of the white race within her limits, a relation that had existed from the first settlement of her wilderness by the white race, and which her people intended should exist in all future time, end quote. Mississippi's document is much shorter and gets right to the point. Quote, our position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest of the world. Its labor supplies the product which constitutes by far the largest and most important portions of commerce of the earth. These products are peculiar to the climate verging on the tropical regions, and by an imperious law of nature, none but the black race can bear exposure to the tropical sun. These products have become necessities of the world, and a blow at slavery is a blow at commerce and civilization, end quote. These documents were written after the election of Abraham Lincoln in November 1860, but prior to his inauguration in March of 1861. In these documents, the word tax appears once, and then only in reference to the 3/5 Compromise of 1787. The word tariff does not appear. The word slave or slavery appears 82 times. The only rights referred to are the right to own slaves, the right to have escaped slaves, that is, their property, returned to them, and the right to expand slavery into the territories. The authors of these documents proclaim to the world that slavery caused the Civil War. They proclaim to the world of their contempt for and supposed God-given superiority to the black race. They proclaim to the world what our Confederate monuments represent, and they do so in their own words, by their own hand, and with their own pen. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Bobby Keys. Bobby.
I did write up a little summary with some dates and times and facts, but I'm just gonna speak freely. Short time, and there's another issue I want to bring up. The biggest issue I'm here tonight is speaking to you guys. Some of you were involved, some of you were not. But we have a travel ball team composed of some Lebanon girls, and we had a scrimmage out here on a Sunday. And I feel my integrity and character was put in question the night we used that field. I was accused of breaking in the press box, not being approved to use the field prior to. And up until this point, 4 weeks before that, I had spoke with league officials because the league were scheduled. I was instructed the league scheduled all games at the town and the glade up to August 24th. So that's what I done. And again, numerous conversations with league officials that we were going to use the field. We actually changed the time, and we actually had 2 teams scheduled on the field that day. Had a conversation the Saturday before with a league official that, you know, we were going to use the field, everything was good. And again, some of you guys involved, some of you wasn't, but that's, you know, I was taught at a young age, you don't take much with you to the grave, but you take your character and your word. And I think highly of both of mine. And I stand behind it. I've known some of you a long time, consider some of y'all friends for a long time. Some of you don't know me, so I'm just asking you, don't take one person's perception or one person's word over somebody else's. Find the facts, ask questions, especially the people that's involved. Because it bothered me tremendously. And actually I didn't know about it until we had a meeting to discuss the use of the town field, and that's when the kind of discussions started, or I was involved, brought into the know of, nobody knew I was using the field, how I used the field, and actually had keys to everything in the town facility. I've had these since I was a league official. When I resigned from the league, I was told to keep them. So everybody involved knew I had keys to everything over there. They don't work anymore, they were all changed. But still, this is what keys I had. That's the concession stand, press box, dugouts, and the gates. Again, they're changed, that's fine. And as I told Shane when I spoke to him last Wednesday, if I go on the field with my dollar just to play, I will let him know I'm going on the field. For the simple fact, I'm not going to be accused of thieves breaking into anything or anything. Second thing I was going to bring up, we used the field this weekend for a tournament, and I know there's been some discussions about it. I'm just going to make one huge suggestion. I know we was instructed to use the under the deck for players to sit. It's impossible. Anybody's coached a team out there, you've got kids outside of the dugout, a brick dugout you can't see, you can't communicate, you can't talk to them. So as far as that goes, I allowed our players and the other players to go upside the fence, outside the gate. We did adhere to all the other guidelines. But again, I think there's going to be some discussions on what happens there, but you've got to allow kids and coaches to let them go up that fence line. Because there's no communication. You can't talk to kids, you can't see them. There's no control unless you got 4 or 5 coaches, because when we're back, the coaches are on the field. So there's no communication there. So whoever's involved with that discussion will think about it. A couple other things, home plate area, I know there was some mats put down. I love the mats, they're great. But I've seen 2 people this weekend and a person 3 weeks ago slide in the home plate. They were lucky not to get injured, because what's happening is the mats are level with the field. You go to slide in, one little girl slid in head first, her legs come over her head and touch the back of her head. It's like Velcro. There's no movement there. So again, love the mat idea, I think we need them, but I think they need to be lower to where you can actually put dirt on top of it and have a surface to slide. That's a bit, there's a couple other things I was going to mention to Kevin, just some minor repairs over there. I didn't hang it back up, but there's a little nail screw on the dugout over there that the drag hangs on. It's bent and the drag falls off, somebody's going to get injured there. And then the gate, I think the gate needs a half stuff back on. I know it's bent or it's pulled to one side, but during play that allows the ball to get outside the field and spectators can use it. But other than that, I appreciate you guys letting us use the field. I think it's a great thing, great opportunity. Just on the positive note, I'm not being negative. Everybody thinks a conflict is a bad thing. It's not. If you talk about it, present it well, there's nothing wrong with conflict. When people get away from it, I think because of the perception of how you're going to be deemed by your peers. Well, I felt I was presented wrongly in how that situation happened with the field.
So prior to that scrimmage on Sunday, you actually have authorization or permission to use the field?
Yes. Yeah, I scheduled the scrimmage 3 weeks ahead of time. I scheduled the scrimmage originally on July 31st to scrimmage on August 15th, which was a Friday. The other team called me, they had a pitcher was out of town or whatever, so I asked to reschedule it for Sunday evening. I asked if we was going to do 2 5-inning games, and there was another travel ball team that had the field scheduled for a track. And actually, on that Saturday before, I talked to the other travel ball coach and league official on, hey, we got to move the game. Everything worked out. Yeah, you're good. No problems.
When you say league official, you talking travel ball league official?
No, I'm talking about Little League.
The Little League had control over the field, and we did know, this Little League, we had a lapse in communication from us to Shane. And that's been a learning curve. And with that, the locks were changed, not for the thought of you breaking and entering, like me and you talked, but just as an eye-opening experience that they were pretty easy to get into. Not only that, but who else might have keys, and then I've seen people over there break in with a pocket knife or a car. And so that was just a learning curve, and we've installed a lot nicer equipment over there. So why not, we just took that opportunity to go ahead and fix that.
Yeah, no, and I'm fine with
And I apologize that might have happened, and I know me and you spoke after that, but I apologize on behalf of us.
And the way I think it was, again, the comment was made, yes, you can, and it could happen. You could break into it in a heartbeat. Again, I'm not gonna break into it, I'm not gonna use it if I don't. And actually, 3 weeks before, August 15th, I had 2 more scrimmages over. We had 3 team scrimmages. I used the scoreboard, I used the facility, had umpires. So it was not new to anyone that I had access to the field. I could use the field, but and I apologize to Shane. I told him, I said, going forward, I will let him know anytime I use the field or we're going to it. But again, just from conversations I've had with different people, this situation, and I don't think it was a council meeting, I may be wrong, I think it was one of the Parks and Rec meetings, but I feel I was perceived to not have done it correctly and followed the guidelines on using the field and how I got access to the field.
I think there was obviously a communication issue there, because I don't think anybody on the committee knew that there was permission granted. To my knowledge.
No, when we had the meeting.
No, I'm talking about the Parks and Rec committee meeting with Shane. Shane brought up, I didn't even know who was using it.
No, and that's how I really found out about it. We had a meeting just discussing the use of the field and travel ball tournaments and, the guidelines, and I got a couple of those. And that's when he just happened to mention that.
Sure.
And I stopped the meeting at that point and told everybody involved in the meeting, I had permission. I was given instructions to go through Lebanon Little League, schedule the field, anytime we was going to both fields, and that's exactly what I done. After August 24th, we was instructed that the town would take back over the town field, and the league would take over the lake.
The league, up until the moment rose that I knew that there was a miscommunication, hadn't shared our scheduling with Shane. And then after this incident, because we had the field 7 days a week and could use it, but after that, we've shared our schedule with Shane, and there haven't been any more issues to my knowledge. So, before you go, on behalf of the league, and me personally and the council, thank you for what you've done to the field. Bobby has donated a pallet, or helped get a pallet of chalk donated to the Little League and to the facility. He spent numerous hours working on the field on his own time.
Well, I wrote it down here, like I said, I'm not gonna worry about it, and I'm not doing this for kudos for me, I don't care. I've got two little girls that started playing ball years ago, that's what I do it for, I do it for the kids at the high school. That's all I'm doing, is trying to build a good facility and a good place. And like I said, again, I go above and beyond both fields. You know, I was out here Saturday night till, I don't know, 9 o'clock, dragging the field, raking the field, picking up trash, fixing the paint spray. I mean, anyway, I don't care. I'm not here for a Bobby hoorah. I'm here for, I feel like my character was questioned when I had that scrimmage. It was put in doubt. And that's one thing I'm not gonna set out on.
Sure, and obviously there's, just like I said, there's a communication issue there, whether it be with league officials and Shane, league officials with the council. But as far as your integrity being questioned, I apologize for that. Because we did, to my knowledge, there was nobody in this room that knew you had permission on that field the day of that meeting. Right? That sound right?
And you said something too about you and your daughter coming out. Anybody has access to that field. They don't have to schedule that. You don't have to, if there's no game scheduled, you don't have to have someone to tell you you could use it for that.
It's up to the public.
It's
I
up,
agree, but again, when you're perceived as somebody that broke into the facility, used it without permission, you know, going forward, I will make sure I'm not put in that situation again.
I appreciate you coming tonight.
But if you and your daughter wants to go play ball and nobody's on her, you feel free to use it as long as you want.
And we will. I'm just saying, you know, this is probably, I've coached league basketball since 2010. I've been an 8th grade assistant softball coach for 2 years. This had me to the point where I wanted to cancel everything. I didn't want to play. You guys will turn the reins over to somebody else. I put too much time and dedication into these girls to have me perceive that, you know, I'm not using the facilities and not following procedures and breaking into them. Especially when I had a set of keys to everything here.
Bobby, can you go back to one other thing?
Yes, sir.
How do we fix that home plate issue? You said there's a little girl drove in.
Actually, I've seen 3. I've seen a little boy, and I've seen 2 high school age girls slide into home plate. The one girl slid in head first, and literally when her chest hit the mat, and again, it's a textured mat, and the mats are great. My suggestion would be, I didn't design them, I don't know, my suggestion would be to take that mat lower, and that way you can put dirt over top of it. Because right now, the only thing on top of it is a little bit of brick dust.
Does that matter what they
So
consider
it's
turf?
exposed.
Yes.
It's pretty much exposed.
It's pretty much level with the playing surface.
It needs to go deeper.
Yeah, we need to.
How deep's it need to be?
Yeah.
Even when we purchased them, the picture, Brad, that we looked at, if you remember when you proposed it to the council, it had it going in and then being covered with,
There is 1 inch of covering over those.
right now, there's an
And
inch.
that is what was on the instruction when we installed them.
What initially they were,
This is the second time that we installed them. We initially installed them with 3 inches of covering,
Okay,
which was horrific. Everybody complained that it was too thick. And they
okay,
couldn't, it was too sloshy on them.
okay.
We raised it up and they're nice now. I don't think they need to be dug up, there just might need to be some material gathered back.
And put on
That's
top, back on
moved
top.
And that was gonna be another suggestion, maybe it's just where the brick dust,
It
you
just
don't
needs
have
to
to,
be-
you know, material to.
It just needs to be re-maintained. The field actually needs, I'm not gonna say a tiller, but it needs something to bust up the material. The sun has, see, there's no way, we have no irrigation out there. We have no way to keep the field wet, and the sun has just cooked it, it's hard. And we actually, Bobby designed a nail drag, and
Yeah, I had, when I was employed with Samuel, I had a couple of guys up there, I got one to high school and one out here. It's a great piece of equipment. I brought it out actually Friday night, and again, as Brad mentioned, underneath the brick dust now is concrete. And this has got teeth on it, And the problem was, I didn't know anybody, somebody loosened the bolts loose, but it would move. So I took it back home, I'm gonna work on it and bring it back. But again, you can't take a tiller to it, because if you take up your base soil, you're gonna dig holes and all that. So it just, again, as Brad alluded to, you just have to break up that topsoil where it's a soft underlayment, and then there's break dust on top of it.
And that's standard field maintenance on any ball field.
So we just need to make sure that field gets maintained before this weekend. It
Yeah,
needs some maintenance.
And we are.
Okay, fine.
Okay,
Or even in the off-season, obviously, there.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's the critical thing, is like, you know, well, right now, there's a lot of travel ball stuff going on, but like typically if league's over, there's not a lot of activity there. So, it, you know, not a lot of people's wanna come out here and drag it or rake it or, you know, work them. So,
One thing I've noticed is the majority of those girls are wearing steel spikes, right?
yes.
I've just noticed more wear and tear from the use of, even when the Southwest was using it, and those metal spikes, I've just noticed more, not so much even on the infield, but the outfield. Our grass is getting a little thin, and we can do that in the off-season too. I don't know if there's no fix. You can't ask those girls to go buy 2 pairs of cleats.
So when is the off-season start? Is there an end date for the fall, what you all are doing?
The fall season is over in October, the end of October.
And the travel ball keeps, I mean, y'all play like through November, December?
The last weekend in
Yeah,
October.
you typically, now some leagues or areas will do one tournament the first of November and call it fall bash. But typically, in October, we'll finish your fall season.
Okay.
Or,
We need to, I've spoken with who does our field maintenance. Around that time, we need to give it a week or 2 weeks of rest to do the maintenance.
Okay. Well, Bobby, thank you again for being with us, and we're sorry for the way the communication that put you, as far as how you felt about yourself and people looking at you. That certainly wasn't an intention. I'm positive.
no, and like I said, the only thing that bothered me was the perception that everybody else that did not know me and, did not know what I do for these kids. I mean, that's what bothered me. You know, other than that, everything else is fine. I mean, I'm fine with it, but, again, thank you guys for the time, appreciate it.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming by.
Thank you. We are going to, yeah. Oh, at this time, I'm going to declare a 15-minute recess prior to the town manager's report.